All right, we got a few questions to ask. Why is José Suarez improving? There's some metrics to share on him. Who is like Joey Votto on the Halos? We've got some names. And who are we watching this weekend? It rhymes with Logan O'Hoppe. Let's get into it. You're Locked On with Mike and Jon, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can give us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, more odds, and more lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Hey, we appreciate you joining us on this Friday edition of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every single day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
Well, we are heading into our last weekend series of the year. It's crazy to think that the regular season is coming to an end, Mike, but here we are with just a few games left this year, and we're heading into a weekend where we take on the Texas Rangers. And we're going to spend a lot of time reflecting on 2022, especially during the off season for the Angels, that is. I know the postseason is on its way, but for the end of the regular season for the Halos, we want to spend some time reflecting on some of the positives. And of course, we'll focus on some other things as well. But one of the things that we want to start by focusing on is the improvement from José Suarez on the mound. Let's talk about a few ways that he's improved. So as the season has progressed, there's actually a remarkable difference in his pitching, in his pitch usage.
Yeah.
And so there's some stats we want to share with the listeners of Locked On Angels. So let's talk about his pitch usage during his first 11 appearances. You want to hit us with those stats?
Sure. All right. So when he started pitching this season, had 11 appearances, here's what he threw most predominantly. He threw his fastball, 42%. He would back that fastball up with a changeup at 27%. Then he would use his curve at 20%. And then he would have a slide piece at 9%.
Wow.
And his stats in his first 11 appearances, 45 innings pitched, a 5.60 ERA, 45 strikeouts, and then this is the key right here, Johnny, 22 walks. How many times did we watch him pitch early this season and go, oh, man, right? Like, and if you're listening, not watching, listening, I have my hands over my face, right? Because that's how it was with Suarez. We're like, man, where did the guy go that we saw last year that was so good? Where did that guy go? Well, come to find out, Johnny, he showed up in his 12th appearance. And so why don't you share the numbers of his last 10 starts?
Yeah, over his last 10 starts this season, he actually upped the fastball usage by a tick. It went from 42.2 to 43.8. But here is the key, Mike, the slider usage, 27.1, nearly 3 times as much as he was using it before at 9.9. The curveball usage went down from 20.6% to just 7.4%. And then the changeup usage also went down to 21.6. And listen to this, in 57 innings pitched, over 10 appearances, he has a 2.84 ERA, 52 strikeouts, and 11 walks. He cut those
Just
walks
11. Wow.
in half. In more innings pitched, he cut those walks in half. Now, couple things that we noticed, obviously, more fastballs, but the key here is that slider, that lefty slider that he's employed much more. In fact, he even worked on a new grip as recently as his last start that he was trying out. And it seems to have paid off because if you look at how many more strikeouts, 7 more over the first 11 appearances in his last 10 starts, and then less curve and change, that probably helps with the walk issues and where he's able to put those. And so here's what we learned from these quick numbers. José Suarez is somebody who's willing to learn. He's still very young. In fact, when he came up, he was one of the youngest members of the staff, and he's got a lot of years ahead of him, a lot of age ahead of him, and a lot of career ahead of him. And gosh, when he first came up, I was like, who is this guy? Get rid of him.
Sure.
We don't need
Sure. Yeah.
and man, has he just really broken out, especially going back to last season. He made some really impressive appearances last season. And then this year we've been able to rely on him as a decent starter. I said very early on that José Suarez was the perfect number 6 in
Okay.
this rotation.
You did. I remember.
And now that he's made these improvements, to me, he's a 4 or 5 in any rotation. He's not the bottom of the barrel anymore. I think that he is better than a 6th man in this rotation. So I appreciated the ways that he has been willing to learn. He's been willing to learn new ways to pitch, again, with that slider grip. He got sent down to AAA to work on some things, and then he came back up, and he's looked really good since coming back up. So that's one way that he has improved this season.
Yeah. We also get to see Suarez willing to adjust. Now, you mentioned the new grip on the slider. That's hard to do, right? Pitching in the major leagues, pitching in the minor leagues, pitching in little league is hard to do. And then having to learn how to grip the ball differently, and then blisters, right, Johnny? Like you can feel it on the sides of your hands because, right, you're throwing it in a new way and you're hitting skin that you've never actually pushed against the baseball before.
Yeah.
And so he's willing to go through all of that because he's willing to adjust. And you can see that he did have better control in his last 10 appearances based upon how he's gripped the ball and what he's throwing more of versus what he's not throwing. And you've seen him really control that slide piece versus the curveball or the change. Now, you've compared him looks-wise to Bartolo Colon, but you know he reminds me of? He reminds me of when Irvin Santana first came up. Remember, Irvin was a bit inconsistent, and then suddenly it was like, who is this guy throwing a no-hitter and looking dominant and winning 15, 16 games? Suarez has that sense in my mind, like reminds me of somebody who came up really, really young, and it needed some experience, and that experience is only going to help him moving forward. And so far, he's shown the ability to adjust, and he's shown the ability to being willing to learn. And then, John, there's a third point that you're going to make. He's ready, in our opinion, to be a consistent starter for the Halos.
Yeah, even more so than coming into 2022. He is somebody that I think that we need to count on in this rotation. I think that there are a lot of lefty pitchers. I really like how we've used Jaime Barria this season in that he's made a couple of spot starts. I think he's just made one spot start, but coming out of the bullpen and being the long relief to get us through a few innings.
Yeah.
One thing that I would appreciate seeing from José Suarez is picking up the pace, Mike, picking up the pace between pitches.
Yes.
We're going to have the pitch clock next season. So I think that he's going to have to do that. Otherwise, he's going to be penalized a ball every time he violates the clock. So these coaches are going to be working really hard with all the starters on picking up the pace and being consistent between pitches. And really, that's when Suarez is at his best. He's better when he's not taking tons of time between pitches.
I was just going to say that. I was going to affirm that because you've seen him when he gets the ball and he throws it, he's very consistent, and he's been doing that in his last 10 appearances. I think that's another reason why the walks are down. And so I don't think this is going to be a detriment to him at all. In fact, I think it's going to be beneficial to this young Angel rotation that they're forced to keep a rhythm instead of walking around and getting frustrated like Patrick Sandoval might do. I think for Sandoval, Detmers, and Suarez, this is only going to be awesome for them to be consistent, to be around the zone, and to know that they can't think about it for too long because they got to throw the next pitch to try to get the guy out.
Did you ever have a teacher in high school or perhaps middle school that you really wanted to impress? Did you have somebody who was kind of hard nosed that you wanted to?
Oh yeah. Yep.
You wanted to be their
Spanish
favorite
teacher,
student?
Miss McDonald. Yep. I remember her.
I feel like for Phil Nevin to treat José Suarez the way that he has this season, including Nevin's very first game as interim manager, where he walked out and asked Suarez, "You want to keep going? What do you say?" Yep. And he let Suarez get out of that inning. We've seen that, I think, at least 2 more times since Phil Nevin has taken over. I think once more with Suarez and another time perhaps with Sandoval, or there was somebody else that he did the same thing with. I think somebody like Phil Nevin giving you the go-ahead to get out of an inning and finish up, what a confidence boost.
Yeah, for sure.
What a way to instill confidence and just good feelings in your pitcher to know that, like, dang, Phil thinks I can do this. Like, Phil wants
Yeah.
me to get out of this. I'm not
Yeah.
going to let him down. And I think that hard-nosed Phil Nevin attitude has been beneficial to a lot of our young players this season. And I know the circumstances that got Phil to managing this team were unfortunate because we had to let go of Joe Madden, but I think he's really stepped up and ran with it. And even though we didn't have a successful season offensively, I think that Phil Nevin has been a good inspiration for these young starters.
Coming up on Locked On Angels, who is Joey Votto on the Angels? We'll explain what we mean by that question. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by Bet Online. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. You can find all the latest football league developments, great matchups, news, and podcast at BetOnline. And they're your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, sports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events is BetOnline, and they've got information on the MLB, MMA, boxing, and even golf. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline is where the game starts.
We want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. And you've heard me talk about it before, but we have the 2022 player survey happening right now. We want to get our fans of Locked On Angels in on helping us structure and create a future episode of Locked On Angels. So we're asking you to grade each member of the Angels 2022 roster 1 to 5. Share some comments, 3 words or less, on how you think their season went, how you think that particular player performed, that sort of thing. So we are looking forward to hearing from you in that regard, and we'll share the results on a future episode of Locked On Angels once the regular season comes to an end.
John, Joey Votto is out for the rest of the season, plays for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
And our buddy Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds is very, very sad about that because he loves Joey Votto. But something interesting happened. He was seen and then videoed walking around the stadium, hanging out with fans, eating with fans, high-fiving fans, hugging fans, taking photos with fans. And the Reds fans were like, he gets it.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Like, here he is, not able to play, but Joey's walking around saying hi to people. And when I saw that, I went, well, yeah, why not? Like, right, he's just sitting on the bench, and why not, right? He didn't necessarily have to be there. He's rehabbing. But how great was it that he actually chose to be there and hang out with the fans to say thank you to them? And so it got us thinking about, and who is like Joey Votto on the Halos? Who would do something like this? Who understands the importance of the fan-player connection, Johnny?
Before I speculate on that, can I bring up a story from when I toured Wrigley Field back in May? There was a Reds player, and maybe you know who it is. I think it was on the Reds, who was either out of the game or out for the season, but he sat up on the rooftop bleachers with the Cubs fans.
I remember that.
Against, I know. I have to look that up, but it was a great story. And I think he got in trouble for it too. He wasn't supposed to be there. I think it was actually, I don't think he was scheduled to play that day. So he went up in like his uniform and had a seat and was eating hot dogs and stuff. That's a great story.
That move. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we had to pick a player who understands the connection with the fans, man, I go back to Jared Walsh and watching him and Brandon Marsh go to that elementary school earlier this season and spend time with the kiddos. And I know Griffin Canning was there and Taylor Ward was there, but man, Marsh and Walsh went together and they were part of a little assembly. And Jared Walsh was the star of the show. He was doing Fortnite dances with the kids, and he was making jokes.
Love it.
He understood the kids' references and things like that. To me, Jared Walsh has a really great connection with the fans, and I bet you the more that he sticks around the Angels, that we're going to begin to fall in love with this guy a whole lot more. And even when he did commentary a couple of games ago, he was hilarious, and he was great. And he was. And I think it was Rengifo hit a home run, and And he was like, how about that guy? How about this guy's season, huh? Like, he's just so supportive of his
hyping up
teammates.
the boys.
Totally. And so, yeah, I know there's only a few games left, but I could easily see Jared Walsh being the kind of player that Joey Votto's been and understanding the value of fan connection. But I think it goes without saying that Mike Trout certainly understands the fan connection before and after every game, signing autographs. In fact, when that silly story came up where he's trying to leave his hotel and that guy had his kids planted outside of the hotel and tried to make Trout look bad and whatnot, that's his private time. That's his time. And obviously he was in a rush. I'm sure he's trying to get to the airport or something, but you don't hound people outside their homes, and you don't hound people outside their hotels, and you don't plant your kids to try and autograph hawk, especially as a grown man trying to get an autograph that you're just going to sell on eBay later. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And one thing that was good that came out of that situation was all of the videos that got posted about Mike Trout and the things that he's done for the kiddos, the things that he's done for the fans. Man, there was even a video where he's on his way out of the stadium in his car. He rolled down the window and he's signing autographs for the kiddos. So if anybody understands the player connection, especially with the Halos, it's Mike Trout. But what are your thoughts?
Let me talk about Mike Trout for just a minute, because what I loved about what happened when that video was posted was that fans of every team, but specifically the Halos, they were like, nah, bro, hold on 1 second, right?
Yeah,
they knew what was happening, right? Yeah, they knew what was happening in that moment, but then they also know what Mike Trout has done, because he's always signing autographs and he's always interacting with
even
the fans.
At away games.
Yes. And what I like about Trout is that he isn't arrogant about it. Like, he understands what a gift it is to be able to play, to be as good as he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's never come across as like, I'm annoyed by it, I'm bored by it. Even when he walked by those kids, you could see it in his face where he was like, oh, dang, I can't do this. I can't stop. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I loved about all the Major League Baseball fans came to his defense, because he is a good guy in this game and he's got great character and great integrity. I think that Shohei Ohtani really understands the connection with the fans. And you can see him in the way that he is interacting with players on the field, but then also the way that he hits a foul ball and making sure that fans are like not hurt and out, right? And then
I love that.
He's really been available to sign autographs as well. And they don't mention this too often, but he is working hard to learn the English language so that he can interact with the fans and talk with them, so he doesn't always have to have his interpreter with him. And good on him, man. Like, he is really stepping up and being somebody that understands, like, that's who makes this thing move forward. And so we have two really great guys on our team that understand the fan connection. 3, if you include Jared Walsh. And I've appreciated Jared Walsh when he has been on the mic and when he's gone and served in the community. And so I think those 3 guys are great examples. But I would put Mike Trout at the top of that list just simply because he's always giving time to the fans. He's always giving time to the media. And as much as we've kind of ragged him on when things were really heavy, and he goes, oh, it's tough, right? Like, that's probably the best answer, because he's not going to get into the drama or the gossip or the issue.
That's his mode 24/7, you know?
Oh, absolutely. That's tough.
Yeah, it's tough, you know? I mean, we go out there every day. And
we don't want that to happen. We want him to be here, but it's tough. You know, it's a business, got to make decisions. It's an organization. This is what happens.
One thing I always appreciate about Jared Walsh, whenever he has a post-game interview on the field after a big win or something like that, seems like he always takes the moment to say thank you to the fans. And he's like, thanks for supporting us. Thanks for coming out, yada, 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 that sort of thing. Yeah. I always thought that was really cool as well. So
could I make one more point? Of course. Luis Rengifo. I've really been impressed by him.
Yes.
Because you can tell that he is not comfortable with the English language. And yet he's doing all of his interviews in the English language. There was an interview he did a few months back, and you could tell he wasn't quite understanding what they were asking of him.
Yeah.
But you could see, like, he was giving his whole heart to that. He's like, I think you said something about defense, so I'm going to talk about defense.
And he doesn't have to give it in English either, because we have a translator, but Rengifo's putting in the effort to do these interviews, and that's just really cool to see.
Yeah.
I love that. One more thing is, I think, just speaking on behalf of Angel fans, like, our fans are dedicated. Our fans get it. I love that they stepped up to the plate to defend Mike Trout.
Yeah,
And even
same.
though we have been through such difficult seasons these last 10 years, man, we are just really dedicated and we love our team. We love our players. And no matter what happens, it seems like Angel fans are there to support the players. I know that the front office and ownership has been very frustrating, particularly ownership, but we have never, we're able to split that hair of, we love Mike Trout, we love Shohei, we love Jared Walsh, yeah, all those guys, but we can still express our frustration with things that are happening within the organization. But I don't feel like the players ever feel like our love for them is lacking, if that makes sense.
Speaking of players, Johnny, it's the last weekend of the season, like you mentioned, and we
Yeah.
always like to, for the weekends, we like to pick a player that we're going to watch. But you and I have decided that there's just one player that we want to watch this weekend, and that's Logan O'Hoppe. We want to see how he does. And I think that there are four, maybe three categories that we're looking at. And so I'll start with the first. I want to see how he's going to handle the bat because when he was in Double-A and he got moved to the Trash Pandas, the dude looked like Shohei Ohtani. The dude looked like Babe Ruth, right? He looked like Aaron Judge. Like the guy was going off. He had I think it was an 11 OPS. Like, I mean,
1.147. I have it memorized.
There you go. I mean, that was unbelievable that he was able to do that and come up. And so that is exciting to see. I want to see how he handles the bat because we haven't had a really great offensive catcher since Benji Molina. I know that we could probably throw Mike Napoli in there. Chris Iannetta handled the bat pretty well, but Benji was the guy that I really appreciated because he could hit 290 and then he could throw out over 40% of runners. Like, and he handled the pitching staff really, really
He's
well.
a Molina, baby.
All those Molinas are just gifted, right? And so I'm going to watch this weekend how Logan O'Hoppe is going to handle the bat, how he's going to handle major league pitching, and to see how comfortable he can get, how quickly he can get adjusted to major league pitching and to major league hitting.
Yeah, this Texas series is interesting to me because I'm interested to see how much they give Logan O'Hoppe an opportunity, because I know we're carrying Matt Thaiss, we're carrying Max Stassi, we're carrying Kurt Suzuki. Yeah. Zook's going to get his send-off in Oakland, so I expect that we'll see more of Stassi and O'Hoppe behind the plate. Maybe maybe that Saturday to Sunday, we'll see one or the other behind the plate, just because that's a quick turnaround for a catcher to catch on Saturday night and then do it again on Sunday afternoon. So hopefully we see him tonight, and hopefully we see him either Saturday or Sunday. And I'm interested to see how he takes care of the pitching staff, Mike.
Yes.
We have Tucker Davidson going on tonight, Friday night.
Yep.
And if they pair him with Logan O'Hoppe, it's a young battery. It's going to be an interesting combination because we know Logan is still figuring things, or not Logan, but Tucker Davidson is still figuring things out on the mound, how to be an effective pitcher.
Developing.
Yeah. So I imagine we'll see some sort of guidance from whoever's behind the plate. But I really want to know how Logan O'Hoppe is going to call pitches, how he's going to handle the staff. Is he going to know when to take a walk out to the mound? Is he going to know like how to communicate well? And that's a whole different element to the game. Is he going to be able to frame well and steal some strikes for his pitchers? It's really going to be interesting to see him behind the plate because he's such a dynamic player at the plate in terms of offense. So the whole defensive side of the game is something I'm really looking forward to watching, and how he's going to handle the pitching staff.
I'm going to watch how he's going to handle base runners. And I know that the Rangers don't necessarily run all the time, but there's been some mixed information about his pop time. So like when he catches the ball and then hops up and throws it down to second. And so I want to see that happen. So Rangers, please run this weekend, because we'd love to see what O'Hoppe
Adolis
has
Garcia, he's going to be on the move. You know that much. Yeah. And his pop time, by all accounts, seems to be like way up there in terms of getting up and throwing guys out. I mean, there were some examples of it while he was in Double-A, and before the camera could even flip to second base, the ball was like already there, because he got up and threw so fast. So I'm really interested to see how fast and how quickly he can throw runners out, and maybe even stopping a runner from getting to third base.
Yes.
That's really difficult, and I would
Yeah.
love to see that. Maybe even a back pick, Mike, at first base if
Where are
somebody's.
those? We haven't seen those, right?
Have we seen one all season? I'm not even
I don't
sure.
know if we have. Yeah.
But man, it would be really great to see Logan O'Hoppe do like one of those things. At the very least, throw somebody out. Below that, a pick off at third, and maybe even a back pick at first base. I'm really excited to see what O'Hoppe can do behind the dish.
Yeah. So we're watching how he handles the bat.
Mm-hmm.
We're watching how he handles this pitching staff, and we're watching how he manages base runners. If there's other things that you're going to be watching, man, comment below or tweet at us or send us a message on Instagram because we would love to talk about that. But those are the three main things that we're watching this weekend because we're really rooting for Logan O'Hoppe. I think that we have a really great player on our hands. And isn't it exciting? I mean, we talked about Zach Neto earlier this week.
Yeah.
Talked about Levon Soto. I mean, gosh, this is really exciting to have guys like this that are coming up and the potential of them really being great superstars for us just brings a whole lot of joy to my heart, Johnny.
Yeah, it's a fun feeling when somebody comes up from the minors and they hit the ground running. And that's what we would love to see out of O'Hoppe this weekend, especially against a team like Texas, where you can probably take advantage and hit them well, play some good defense. And, they're in a struggling position just like we are. So this really could be a great weekend for O'Hoppe. And we've got a few games left this weekend and heading into next week, heading up to Oakland. So let's get as much O'Hoppe time as possible.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. Now make your second listen, the Locked On MLB podcast with Paul Francis Sullivan. He brings his perspective on every team and shares some of the biggest stories from around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter to stay connected with us. And of course, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. So you can reach out to us directly there as well if you're an Instagram user. Because over the weekend, we're going to put out the question, Mike, what are we doing on Monday?
Because it's our final regular season Mailbag Monday, and we would
Wow.
love to hear what your thoughts are. Tell us what you think about Logan O'Hoppe, what you've come to see so far, and maybe even Levon Soto. We would love to hear your thoughts on some of the new players coming up. Plus, if you have any questions, you have anything that you would love for us to talk about together, Monday is a really fun day for us. So tweet at us, send us a message, or you can call us 714-409-6396. Leave a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And that voicemail line will be in the episode description below, as well as our player survey for 2022. Don't forget to take that while you're at it. And until Monday, we'll see you again. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Angels. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.